One day, a boy named Rust was silently enjoying himself reading his book. Suddenly, 3 kids took his book and mocked him for reading a childish story. Little did they all know that this incident marked the day Rust's genuine admiration for heroes turned into a desire to become one. The one who triggered this change was none other than Ruby, who saved him from the bullies. When Rust woke up, he was greeted by Ruby, but he was more surprised as to why Ruby was in his room. Ruby explained that she tried waking him up, but Rust didn't respond at all. She then reminded Rust that they had to get ready since today was the day they were waiting for, their blessing ceremony. It was the day when all 12-year-olds undergo a rite of passage and receive mystic arms from God. It was also the day when Rust would reach his dream, to become an adventurer. Before leaving, Rust's mother entrusted Rust's safety to Ruby since she was older than him. Arriving at the church, Ruby could not hide her excitement upon seeing so many people in front of the church. Rust then mentioned the reason why he was up late and that he was nervous in case he would receive weird mystic arms. Ruby then tried encouraging Rust to change his attitude, which was the reason why he kept getting picked on by bullies. While walking, they didn't expect that there were other kids who didn't aspire to become adventurers themselves. Aside from taking the test, one can become an adventurer if he were to be scouted. Ruby then reminded Rust of their promise that once she becomes an adventurer, she would protect the people who were suffering from the hands of monsters. While Rust, on the other hand, promised to become like the cool heroes he had always dreamed of. As the two were passing by a group of kids, they heard that one of them saw adventurers that looked like heroes. This momentarily excited Ruby, but she then had to leave since the ceremony was about to start. As the two parted, Rust was instantly picked on by bullies again. They mocked Rust for trying to become an adventurer. When the bullies took Rust's book and continued to make fun of him, Ruby arrived at the scene and told the bully to return Rust's book. The bullies then threw the book and insulted Rust before leaving. Rust felt pathetic as the bullies were somewhat right, as he was always being protected by Ruby. She then picked up the book and told Rust to say something back since that is not the attitude of someone who would become a cool hero. Rust was surprised, and wondered if Ruby knew how he felt. Inside the church, the ceremony was about to begin. The participants were instructed to line up in front of the altar. A boy with thick eyebrows went first and prayed. A beam of light shone upon the boy, which granted him a C-rank mystic arm called Great Axe of Steel. Everyone was surprised that the boy received a C-rank while Rust's bully remained unfazed. A girl with short hair then offered to go next, and she obtained a C-rank mystic arm called the Short Sword of the Gale. The other kids somehow felt confident since there were years when getting a C-rank would not come. However, this year they had 2 right from the beginning. Ruby was excited and hoped that Rust and she would get good mystic arms. Rust agreed but still could not hide his nervousness. When Rust's bully went up to the altar, he was the first to receive a B-rank mystic arm called the Long Spear of the Lightning Strike. Others were amazed by Helio, who received a B-ranked mystic arm. Some even asked if he would join their party. While walking down the stairs, Helio saw Rust and Ruby and menacingly grinned at them. Infuriated by it, Ruby went up to the altar and prayed. Rust wondered if Ruby knew how he had always admired her and wanted to become as strong as her. Everyone was in awe and surprised when Ruby announced that she received an A-rank mystic arm called the Great Sword of the Flame Dragon. Ruby tried to get Rust's attention but was immediately bombarded with requests to have her join their party. Before Ruby was overtaken by the people who admired her mystic arm, she bid Rust good luck. When it was finally Rust's turn, he bent his knee and prayed. When he opened his eyes and saw a rusted sword, the kids laughed at him, especially Helio. All of a sudden, the room became quiet as a woman was walking towards the altar. They then recognized the woman as the hero named Palti. Palti then asked Ruby if she would like to join her party. Ruby could not decide right away. She took Rust's hand and excused herself momentarily. However, Rust still could not believe that he received an F-rank mystic arm called Rust Sword. When Ruby asked to invite Rust to the party as well, Palti directly told Rust that he could not become an adventurer. Palti then explained that demons have a tough hide, which they called Vile Hide. Normal weapons and low-rank mystic arms couldn't do any damage to the demon's hide. Since Rust received an F-rank mystic arm, if he were to be reckless, then he would become the demon's food. Ruby cheered for Rust and encouraged him that they would get stronger together. Rust, on the other hand, did not want to hinder Ruby's growth by always protecting him. Rust promised Ruby that he would catch up to her and that he would become an adventurer who won't lose to the hero. Ruby accepted Rust's decision and agreed to wait for him. Seeing Ruby leaving alongside the hero's party, he raised his rusty sword and promised that he would become a hero one day. During the days when Ruby and Rust were still very young, Ruby viewed Rust as her hero, even though he was a wimpy crybaby like Takemichi from Tokyo Revengers. Unlike the heroes in his books, back in the present time, Ruby and the hero's party were surprised by the sudden appearance of a monster. They immediately prepared themselves to fight. However, they were a little puzzled and disappointed when the monster that showed up was a weak one. The priest in the party apologized for alerting everyone. Palti reminded everyone that strong monsters wouldn't appear very close to human settlements. She then noticed Ruby trembling. After holding Ruby's sword, Palti asked Ruby to calm down since the monster that appeared isn't strong enough. Ruby felt nostalgic seeing the forest since she used to play in the area along with her friends. When Palti asked her if she was worried about Rust, Ruby responded that she wasn't. The other members of the party gradually understood that no strong monsters would show up in the forest if children would casually play around the area. Ruby then mentioned that no strong monsters would show up in the forest, but a hero would. At the village, Rust's mother was surprised with Rust's outfit and asked what he was wearing. Rust explained that he wished to help her mother with the fields moving forward. When Rust was about to leave, her mother called him out and told him to carry his rusty sword instead of a rake. If Rust wishes to become an adventurer, then he wouldn't have time to farm. Her mother then asked him to promise her one thing, and that if the situation gets dangerous, he would run away. After accepting her mother's conditions, Rust went into the forest hoping that one day he could repay her mother and Ruby. Rust then noticed cart tracks on the road and assumed that it must have been an adventurer's carriage. Staring at the road, Rust forgot about something that had happened to both Ruby and him in the forest. All of a sudden, a Trent successfully snuck up to Rust and immediately got a hold of Rust's ankle while he was still surprised. Rust was flung up in the sky. He tried cutting the Trent's vine. However, due to his mystic arm being dull, Rust was not able to cut the vine and was instead slammed to the ground. With his body aching in pain, Rust grabbed his rusty sword and pushed himself since he made a promise to Ruby that he would soon catch up to her. At the end of the day, Rust went home while her mother complimented him for successfully running away. The next day, Rust faced the Trent again and tried to cut its vines but was still unsuccessful in cutting them. Rust began to wonder if he really did receive a sword and not a club. The next day, other adventurers wondered what was happening and were surprised that Rust goes after the Trent day after day. Day after day, Rust kept challenging the Trent until 3 years had passed. Two women were having a conversation on the bridge when all of a sudden a bunch of Trents showed up and were about to attack the two women. Rust leapt in front of the girls and hit the Trent's body. He was surprised at first that a Trent showed up at the village entrance before asking the girls if they're alright. However, he was a little embarrassed that the people he saved were adventurers and also the ones that killed the Trent. On top of a hill, Rust thought of Ruby and wondered if he had gotten close to her level. 3 years he had trained himself, but he could only reach level 10. Rust then thought of his dream before as a joke since he was still a wimpy kid after years of training. Thinking of trying to sharpen his sword for the first time, Rust overheard Ruby's triumph and became the hero's right-hand man. This pushed Rust to work harder and exhausted himself by fighting a bunch of Trents. Rust was then called out by the brothers that sell firewood and told him that it was impossible for him to catch up even after training for 3 years. Rust sat under a tree wondering how Ruby got so far ahead of him. As he fell asleep, Rust was suddenly woken by a child's scream. Running around the forest, Rust hoped that what he heard wasn't a lost child. After finally locating the child, he was puzzled since the child he saw was Ruby surrounded by monsters. When he was about to save her, a younger version of himself showed up trying to save Ruby using a branch. He witnessed how he once grabbed Ruby and ran away from the monsters. Seeing how he himself cried when he was the one that saved Ruby, Rust wondered if he really saved Ruby with just a twig in his hand. The younger version of Ruby walked towards Rust and asked if he was still going to be a cool hero since she was looking forward to it. Rust then finally woke up and realized that what had happened was all a dream. Holding his rusty sword, Rust vowed to catch up to Ruby soon. He then heard a child scream. When he realized that this time it was not a dream but a reality, Rust instantly ran towards the location where he heard the scream. When he finally saw the child, he was surprised and curious as to why there was a demon in the forest. Demons differ from monsters. They are a species with high intelligence. Similar to how humans receive mystic arms from gods, demons also receive them but from the evil god. Demons are considered humanity's greatest enemy. Rust was still stunned and confused as to why there was a demon in the forest near the human settlement. Seeing the demon's weapon, Rust had never felt so much pressure from an individual before. He then heard the brothers' reaction after seeing the demon and immediately ran away from the area. Rust then grabbed one of the brothers and asked if they would just leave the child to be harmed by the demon. The brothers did not care about the child as they prioritized the village more. When Rust suggested that they help the child since the brothers also had mystic arms, they refused to assist Rust, citing their D-ranked mystic arms and fear of the demon. Seeing the little girl calling out for help, Rust could no longer tolerate the injustice in front of him and warned the demon to stay away from the child. When the demon mocked Rust's threats, unable to hear his warnings, Rust could no longer tolerate the demon's actions and rushed towards him. When he swung his sword at the demon, it easily grabbed his sword. The demon was surprised that Rust was swinging a mystic arm and thought that it was some trash. The demon pushed Rust away and laughed at how weak his mystic arm was. The demon then showed his mystic arm and demonstrated to Rust how powerful his weapon was. With the demon's swing, he was able to cut multiple trees. Rust was beyond scared after witnessing the power of the demon's mystic arm, which he then deemed to be in a different league. He knew that he could not beat the demon, but he could try to stall until the brothers got the guards and asked for reinforcements. The demon then appeared behind Rust and asked about Rust's confidence. It then swung its sword towards Rust, which he was still able to block but was also blown away by the force. The demon realized that he won't get much charity from taking on a weakling like Rust. The demon then smelled a large group of humans in the area and guessed there was a village nearby, planning to massacre all of its citizens. The demon's threat alerted Rust's senses. When the demon was about to end the child's life, Rust no longer hesitated and rushed towards the demon, blocking the attack using his rusty sword. The demon complimented Rust for making it in time but was now instead going to be the one dealing the demon's attack. Adding force to its mystic arm, the demon was able to shatter Rust's weapon and knock him down. Laying on the ground, Rust could only apologize to Ruby as he failed to keep his promise again. Sharing their dreams of becoming heroes, Rust knows that he was the only one who could protect the girl right now. Even if he had to trade his life, Rust picked up his sword and pushed himself to stand up. The demon noticed that Rust was up again, so he tried to end it with one strike while Rust used what's left of his strength to swing his sword. As the two mystic arms made contact, it showed a blinding light, resulting in Rust's mystic weapon slowly showing its secret. Both were surprised as they witnessed Rust's weapon becoming an S-rank weapon named the Cursed Magic Sword. The demon was confused as to why Rust's mystic arm changed. He didn't want to make the fight take any longer and rushed towards Rust to end him. Rust still couldn't believe that he was now seeing his mystic arm's true form. As he felt the mystic arm's strength welling from within him, he swung his sword at the demon, which parried the demon's attack. The demon became annoyed by Rust's expression and threw a vertical slash, but Rust vanished in front of him. Rust then reappeared and landed an attack on the demon, knocking it out. Rust was confused about what was happening, yet he felt that he could not lose, and that his evolved mystic arm was emanating such strong power. The demon, still alive after Rust's attack, couldn't believe that it had been pushed back by a young boy to the point of sustaining serious damage and damaging its vile hide. The demon couldn't restrain its anger and randomly threw attacks just to hit Rust. However, Rust's movements became more swift, allowing him to evade all of the demon's attacks and land counterattacks. The demon became more enraged and cast its ability, called Hellflame. The demon's mystic arm emanated extreme power and was about to land a direct hit on Rust. However, the demon was surprised because Rust easily grabbed the demon's mystic arm. Stopping the demon's momentum, Rust used the opportunity to counterattack and landed a hit on the demon's torso. Rust's final attack was effective, eliminating the demon completely and causing it to vanish instantly, leaving only its evil mystic arm. Rust couldn't believe that he had won against a demon and ended up passing out. When Rust finally woke up, he was surprised and confused to find himself in his bed. His mother then came in and explained what had happened. Relieved that the guards had been summoned, Rust remembered the girl and inquired about her. His mother reassured him that the girl was safe and unharmed. Rust's mother shared her thoughts on stopping Rust from becoming an adventurer, thinking he was too weak. Despite Rust always coming home looking battered, she realized she was wrong when she saw the girl he saved as proof of his strength. With Rust about to take the adventurer's exam, his mother only asked one thing, that he shouldn't die before her. Rust cried tears of happiness, grateful to be her son. 3 years after Ruby ventured out, it was now Rust's turn. His destination was the city for beginner adventurers, Whiteland. Before heading out, Rust placed his fist on his chest and vowed to pass the exam and become an adventurer. However, he was worried as his mystic arm had turned back into the rusty sword. Recalling the skill called Evolve, Rust realized that he only needed a little fighting spirit to have his mystic arm show its true form. After defeating the demon, the guards were unable to figure out which mystic arm belonged to Rust, so they brought both mystic arms to him. Rust was surprised that he could also see the properties of a mystic arm that wasn't his. He was undecided about what to do with the demon's mystic arm. But suddenly, both mystic arms floated off Rust's hands and fused together, creating a more powerful mystic arm. Rust was even more surprised to notice that the magic called Hellflame had manifested itself in his mystic arm. Rust's mystic arm is a weapon type, lacking its own magic but able to fight well due to its mystic power. Curious if his mystic arm was hiding something from him, Rust checked its properties and found out that the skill Mystic Arm Synthesis had caused the fusion. The demon had enchanted his mystic arms before, and after synthesizing both, Rust gained the skill Hellflame. While preoccupied with the thought that his weapon had become stronger, a group of Trents appeared behind Rust and tried to attack him. Rust easily dodged all of the Trents' attacks, then cast the skill Hellflame onto his mystic arm. After charging up his weapon with one swing, Rust defeated multiple Trents. Happy that his newfound ability was strong, he suddenly felt pain in his head and became dizzy. Now kneeling on the ground, Rust wondered if what he was feeling was a curse. The Trent took the opportunity to sneak an attack while Rust was still incapacitated. When the Trent was about to land a hit, Rust was saved by a woman wielding a shield. Finally arriving at the beginner adventurer's city, Whiteland, Rust was amazed at how big the structures and buildings in the city were. Upon entering the Adventurers Guild, he was surprised at how many were taking the Adventurer's exam. He then remembered a rumor that only less than 10% passed the exam each time, and if he were not accepted, he would have to wait half a year. Determined to pass the exam on his first try, Rust wondered if Ruby was fine somewhere. Back in the present time, Rust was curious if the woman in front of him was an adventurer and if she was trying to save him. Rust then realized that the shield the woman was carrying was a mystic arm. He was also surprised that the pain he felt earlier was now gone, and his energy was back. His mystic arm, on the other hand, had turned back into a rusty sword. Rust then finally realized the true form of his mystic arm was a cursed magic sword. Picking up his mystic arm, Rust rushed towards the Trent. The woman tried to stop Rust but was surprised when his rusty sword changed into a more sinister mystic arm. After defeating the Trent, Rust was very grateful towards the woman since she had saved him from the Trent. After explaining what had happened with his mystic arm, Rust then introduced himself to the woman. The woman also introduced herself as Dia Carrot. Since Rust had to rest a bit more, the two parted ways since Dia also had to get going. Realizing that his life was just being saved over and over again, Rust was determined that that cycle stops now. Today was the day Rust starts protecting the people he holds dear. In the Adventurers Guild, a commotion was slowly brewing as the candidates for the exam were surprised to see a little girl in the crowd. When the girl stood at the table and introduced herself as Garnet Charm and was the test proctor. Despite her looks, Garnet was an adult who has undergone the blessing ceremony and works for the guild. This sudden revelation surprised the candidates as they did not expect the little girl to be working in the guild. Garnet then explained that the test would be to find a stuffed toy. The adventurers were excited since the test was quite easy. However, their excitement immediately turned to worry as Garnet mentioned that the dolls may have already been picked up by kobolds since they've been placed inside the forest. Rust understands that the adventurer's exam is not something to be underestimated since the place of the examination is where monsters run rampant. Garnet mentioned that aside from the monsters inside the forest, the dolls were also not enough for every one of them, which meant that if they wanted the doll, they would have to fight for it. However, murder was against the rules, since the guild still needed them prepared to face renegades. Renegades are criminals that use mystic arms for nefarious purposes. Once Rust becomes an adventurer, he was sure that there would come a day that he would have to arrest them. The exam was also a test to see how an adventurer fights people. Garnet then added that they're allowed to cooperate with other participants since joining a party was also essential in becoming an adventurer. However, if they party up, then they better bring back enough dolls for all the party members. Garnet gave them 2 hours to finish the exam. After announcing that the exam was now commencing, each and every adventurer immediately looked for someone that they can team up with. Rust then heard a commotion and saw Dia begging a group of adventurers to let her join their party. However, she was only mocked by the group's leader. Seeing Dia being bullied, Rust couldn't help but reminisce about his past and how people used to look down on him. The bully leader mocked Dia since she can't defeat a monster with a shield mystic arm and most likely end up as a failure. The bully leader had enough of Dia's persistence in trying to join their group and was about to slap Dia. Luckily for her, Rust stopped the bully's hand since he already deemed the bully's words too far. Dia was surprised when Rust asked Dia to form a party with her. Rust's offer also surprised the bully leader and everyone around them, as they also began to mock Rust's mystic arm. Garnet then asked the other examiners to properly support the adventurers' development since there were many that had bright futures, especially those who venture into danger. 30 minutes into the exam, Dia and Rust have not yet found a single doll. Rust was thinking that they might be able to get through without a fight, but still won't be that easy. He then suggested that they start looking for kobolds instead. Seeing Dia being quiet, Rust thought Dia must not have wanted to team up with him. Dia then began talking and asked Rust what he meant when he said that they mesh. When Rust was about to clear up any misunderstanding, he was suddenly attacked by a monster. Luckily for him, he was saved yet again by Dia. Using his mystic arm, Rust was able to cut down the monster. He then suggested to Dia a tactic, which was that she would protect him and he would defeat the monster. That is also what he meant when he mentioned that they mesh. Rust explained that his head would hurt if he used his cursed magic sword too much and currently could use it for up to 30 minutes. If he uses it more than that time, he might end up passing out. Rust then mentioned that if Dia protects him, then he can fight without worries. Dia was still worried and not sure if she can protect Rust. He then encouraged Dia that even if her mystic arm could not defeat a monster, she was still a kind person who was willing to save a total stranger. With that knowledge alone, Rust could see that Dia was a strong person. Out of nowhere, a spell almost struck Dia and Rust. Recognizing the spell, Dia instantly knew that it was her bully, Amethyst. After casting the spell, Amethyst mocked the two for having weak mystic arms and plans to get rid of them both. Rust asked Amethyst what they were doing. Amethyst then gave the excuse that they were allowed to take dolls from others. Rust tried to explain that they did not have any dolls yet but was only told by Amethyst to look behind. They were then surprised by Cobalt. Dia reacted just at the right time to protect Rust. The Cobalt ran rampant and continuously attacked Dia. Seeing that Dia was now being pressured, Rust wanted to help out but then noticed that the Cobalt they were facing had a doll on its waist. Amethyst and her group then accused Rust and Dia of trying to steal the second doll they set their eyes on. Using that as an excuse, Amethyst instructed Spinel and Lapis to attack Rust and Dia. As the two chanted their mystic arm skills, Rust and Dia prepared themselves for any damage they would take. After the loud explosion, Spinel and Lapis were annoyed since their attack didn't even hurt the two, since Dia's shield was too strong. Rust and the Cobalt then continued the fight, but when Rust was about to use his weapon, Amethyst casted her ability, Purple Lightning, again at Dia. She then continued to mock Dia for only being able to stand her ground and take on damage. Dia reassured Rust that she was fine since he was now more worried for her well-being. Hearing that Dia was fine, this annoyed Amethyst even more and she continued to mock the two. While being preoccupied with her rants, Amethyst didn't notice that the Cobalt was already closing in on her. Luckily for her, Spinel and Lapis were around to protect her. She then exposed herself as the one that set up the Cobalt to attack Rust and Dia. Seeing that the three were so busy with the Cobalt, Rust took the opportunity to use his mystic arm and attack the Cobalt from behind, defeating it instantly. Spinel and Lapis were stunned as their mystic arms were also cut down along with the Cobalt. Amethyst was also surprised that Rust was able to destroy C-ranked mystic arms. Curious about Rust's real identity, he only responded that he was the same as them, an examinee and Dia's teammate. Rust then mentioned the effectiveness of Dia's shield and that they would have had a better chance if she accepted her. Amethyst became enraged after hearing Rust's words and told him to stop. Rust then told the two that they can get their mystic arms repaired at the church and offered to escort them back. Amethyst accepted the humiliating defeat and went back to the church to have her teammate's mystic arm repaired. As they were leaving, Dia called out to Amethyst but was only ignored by her. Rust immediately became excited since they now have a doll and needed one more to finish their task. He then saw Dia crying, wondering if they could really go back to how they were before. Dia then explained that Amethyst and her used to be childhood friends. She was always teased by others and Amethyst would then save her. Amethyst, on the other hand, was obsessed with being first. She used to study hard about mystic arms and learn the most effective ways to study. She worked hard and was obsessed with gaining everyone's attention. When the ceremony finally came, Amethyst was praised by the other candidates, since she received a B-ranked mystic arm called the Purple Lightning. One of her admirers was Dia, but when Dia received an A-ranked mystic arm, she then apologized to Amethyst. Dia's apology put hatred on Amethyst's mind as she did not want any pity coming from her. Spinel and Lapis then apologized to Amethyst since they thought that they were only holding her back. However, Amethyst reassured the two that they were not holding her back, and that they first have to get their mystic arms repaired. After the two get cheered up by Amethyst, they are immediately warned by Amethyst of something behind them. Unfortunately, even though they were given a heads up, they still took damage. Amethyst was surprised to see a demon in the forest. Meanwhile, Rust was still consoling and trying to have Dia calm down. After giving a few points, Dia finally understood what she needed to do, and still wishes to be friends with Amethyst. On the other side of the forest, Amethyst was now taking damage and having a hard time fighting against a demon. Amethyst was having a hard time fighting the demon since its invisibility was too troublesome for her. She then had a theory about the demon's invisibility and wanted to test it out immediately. After casting Purple Lightning, Amethyst instructed Spinel and Lapis to run away immediately, but unfortunately for her, she received more damage because of the demon's sneak attack. Dia and Rust were about to look for another doll so that they could complete the exam. Dia looked at the sky, feeling an ominous sensation, knowing she needed to go, otherwise something bad might happen. Meanwhile, Spinel and Lapis were worried about Amethyst, but she reassured them that the damage she took from the demon was not that severe. Amethyst had no choice but to say hurtful words towards Spinel and Lapis, hoping they would leave and save themselves. However, the demon still considered their plan futile as it could catch up to them. Amethyst tried to stop the demon alone and confessed that she already knew the demon's weakness. Unfortunately for Amethyst, even knowing the trick behind the demon's invisibility, she was still outmatched by its speed. Hearing about its weakness, the demon didn't mind if Amethyst knew the flaw behind the invisibility skill since its speed compensated for such a small flaw. The demon complimented Amethyst for figuring it out but couldn't use that information in actual combat. To buy time for reinforcements, Amethyst tried striking up a conversation with the demon. When she asked why they wanted to hurt humans, the demon explained that the evil god grants them charity if they kill humans. But the demon had another reason aside from the gifts from the evil god. The demon loves toying with humans. It wants to hear their screams before they are killed. Since Amethyst didn't show any reaction after hearing the demon's explanation, the demon decided to finish their fight when, out of nowhere, Amethyst released the fully accumulated concentrated mana version of Purple Lightning called Full Release Lilac. With a point-blank rage, the demon was thrown off to a distance. Thinking that she finally had bought some time for her and her colleagues, Amethyst was surprised that the demon was still alive and even standing after taking such a powerful attack. The demon then explained the reason why she was so fast. She commands lightning, and the same attribute attack won't work on her. The demon then used her Mystic Arms ability called Chaos Bolt and became super fast. In just a second, the demon was able to reach Amethyst and stab her wrist with her iron claws. The demon was very pleased after hearing Amethyst scream. Even after being stabbed, Amethyst still thought of her friends and hoped that they'd gotten far away from the place. While the demon was preoccupied by her malicious intentions, Amethyst remained calm since she already had a plan to escape such a situation. However, her tears could no longer be stopped as she asked for help from anybody. When the demon was about to go for the kill, Amethyst was fortunate since Dia arrived just in the nick of time to save her. Dia then reassured Amethyst that everything would be fine as she promised to protect her. The demon got a little excited since she now had more prey. However, she was not expecting a surprise attack from Rust's version of Hellflame. Spinel and Lapis returned and apologized to Amethyst for leaving her. They then explained that they were able to meet up with Rust and Dia and told them about what had happened. Amethyst was more curious about the reason why Dia saved her. She had always been a bully towards Dia. Dia's response surprised her since Dia had always thought of her as her first friend. After what she had done and was still being treated nicely, Amethyst could not hold back her tears anymore. After hearing Dia's words, the demon mocked their friendship and plans to kill them one by one. When the demon rushed towards them, Rust blocked the attack with his evolved Mystic Arm. When the demon used the ability Chaos Bolt, Rust was momentarily surprised but regained his composure immediately, as he could clearly assess that he was far stronger than the demon. Using the ability Hellflame, Rust was able to push the demon back. Surprised by Rust's power, the demon became more curious about his identity. After a back and forth of attacks, Rust finally landed an attack and was able to cut the demon's tail. Rust knew that he lacked knowledge in combat and experience, but was sure of himself that he would win because of the sword's blessing. All of a sudden, Rust felt a throbbing pain and let go of his sword. He then realized that it was the curse and that his time had run out. This surprised the demon and made her curious about what other tricks Rust was playing. Seeing the Mystic Arm's form changed, the demon realized that Rust's Mystic Arm had a limit that he could use its powerful form. When the demon tried to land a hit on Rust, Dia was able to block the attack and save Rust from danger. Annoyed, the demon vowed to destroy Dia's Mystic Arm. Amethyst then told the demon that destroying Dia's Mystic Arm was not possible since the weapon's durability was infinite. After hearing Amethyst, the demon rejoiced, knowing that she would get a more valuable charity since she was facing more powerful foes. The demon became even faster and vanished in front of Rust. However, Dia was able to guess the demon's attack even with her eyes closed. Surprised, the demon thought of it as merely a coincidence, but when she tried to land an attack, she was again blocked by Dia's Mystic Arm. Remembering how Dia protected him from the Trent, Rust realized that Dia could perfectly sense her enemies, even those that are unseen, almost like having foresight. When the demon used its invisibility skill, Rust asked Dia for the demon's exact location. After closing her eyes and concentrating, Dia pointed to the demon's location, which Rust then followed up with an attack. However, due to the demon's speed, Rust still could not land a serious damage. Rust didn't have much time and just needed for the demon to not move for a few seconds. Out of nowhere, the demon was again struck by Amethyst's skill called Lilac. The attack momentarily stopped the demon, giving Rust the opportunity to sneak behind the demon and cut the demon in half. After successfully defeating the demon, Rust thanked Amethyst for protecting Dia and him. They then heard a sound followed by an announcement that the test was over. Rust was upset since they only had one doll, and either Dia or he could become an adventurer. Meanwhile, a mysterious girl was being pursued by a group of men in the forest. They were desperate to catch the girl before she reached town, as it would complicate things further for them. The girl had injuries in her left arm, but she healed instantly by using a magic spell. When the day came, Rust was told that after finishing his documents for passing the adventurer's exam, he would then have to speak with the authorities about the incident with the demon. When Dia called Rust's name, he decided to give her the doll and told Dia to become an adventurer. Flustered, Dia did not want to accept Rust's offer since he was the one that defeated the monster. However, Rust was adamant that Dia take the doll since she had saved him multiple times. Rust believed that Dia's kindness would protect many people wherever she goes. As Rust congratulated Dia, Amethyst arrived and asked how long Rust was going to hold Dia's hand, and wondered if he had already fallen in love with her. Surprised by Amethyst's sudden appearance, Dia immediately told her that she should take more rest. Amethyst then handed them another doll to repay their debt for saving them from the demon. Amethyst was about to leave after giving the doll. When Dia tried speaking to Amethyst, she only responded that she would always be right beside her in no time. Their reconnected friendship made Dia emotional, and she was very happy hearing those words from Amethyst. When Amethyst finally left along with Spinel and Lapis, Garnet then went towards the two and told them that they're the only ones left who have not yet finished their registration. Garnet then took responsibility for what had happened in the forest, and thanked Rust and Dia for taking care of the demon. She then told them that their paths moving forward would become even more perilous, since they are now adventurers. The two celebrated passing the exam, but Dia was worried that Rust may be spending too much money on just the celebration. Rust then mentioned that he overheard a conversation involving Amethyst and her friends. Since they were attacked by a demon and couldn't focus on the test, they're going to take a makeup test in 2 weeks. This news made Dia very happy, which made her tear up. Dia was sure that Amethyst and her friends would pass the exam. Since they couldn't become adventurers at the same time, she only hoped that they would go on an adventure together someday. Rust also liked the idea of going on an adventure together with everyone, since he also promised someone that he would become an adventurer with them. He then told Dia of his past and how he was used to being a wimpy kid that needed protecting always. When Dia asked if he was going to meet up with his friends now, Rust didn't want to meet up with them yet as he was still not good enough to catch up but hoped that one day he would reach them. Rust was then surprised when Dia told him his goal of becoming a platinum or higher ranked adventurer. She then asked if he had heard of the White Gold Caverns Danger Zone. One must be a platinum rank or higher to enter the Danger Zone. When Rust asked what Dia was looking for in the Danger Zone, she confessed that she chose to become an adventurer so she can go there and find out why her adventurer parents haven't returned from there. Rust was surprised and stuttered after learning such a revelation. Dia then asked if Rust would be willing to form a party with her as she thought that they were a perfect combination. Rust could not contain his laughter as he had heard such phrases before. He then revealed the true reason why he wanted to become an adventurer, and that was to become a hero to protect the people he cared about. Rust also asked Dia if she wanted to form a party with him, to which Dia happily accepted. The two ended their night of celebration and made a new pact. The next day came and Garnet called for Rust and Dia since she forgot to give them some important stuff as she was busy running around dealing with the demon appearance. Garnet then handed them each a book and told them that they're guild books. They serve as their proof for completing quests. The guild books would also allow them to claim rewards and stamps. Curious at what stamps were, Garnet explained that once they've collected a set amount of stamps, they'll be allowed to take an advancement test. Seeing their reaction, Garnet guessed that the two were also trying to take the advancement test. Since the town is for beginners, quests are simple and rewards plus stamps are little. Garnet then mentioned that she has a perfect quest for the two of them, and that was finding a lost dog. Seeing the two a little disappointed with the reward, Garnet suggested that they move to a different location if they wish to accept high-level quests. When it comes to a more difficult area, Garnet suggested Blue Storia. There were many adventurers ranging from bronze rank to master rank. However, lately there have been a lot of adventurers disappearing around Blue Storia. Hearing such unfortunate news, Dia wondered if it was because of demons again. Rust didn't want to make any sudden decisions and accepted the dog search quest for the meantime. As the two were on their way looking for the dog, Rust apologized to Dia for making a decision by himself. Dia understood Rust's decision and was fine with it since they're still beginners. Rust then mentioned that the dog went missing near the Seven Colors forest, and hoped that the owners were not thinking of looking for the dog themselves since the area is a little dangerous. Dia then called Rust's name to get his attention and asked him to get down. When Rust finally saw a swarm of kobolds, he was surprised and forgot to keep his mouth quiet. This alerted the kobolds and immediately surrounded the two. Because of their small bodies, the kobolds are not powerful, but fighting them would still be difficult, especially that they were now being surrounded. Rust then wanted to try out something new and pulled out the cat demon's claws. Using the Mystic Arm synthesis, Rust was able to fuse another Mystic Arm. He then casted both Hellflame and Chaos Bolt together. Confused at what was happening, Dia only stood with a shocked expression. When Rust was about to throw an attack towards the swarm of kobolds, they immediately sensed great danger which made the kobolds run away. When Dia called for Rust's attention, he was silent and did not respond. He then tried touching his Mystic Arm but only received damage to it. Seeing Dia's confused look, Rust explained what his Mystic Arm's abilities were. Since he can hold two different other Mystic Arm skills, he wanted to test and see if he could simultaneously activate them both. Though it was possible to activate dual enhancements, Rust's body can't endure it even though his sword can. All of a sudden they heard rustling sounds in the bushes and were followed by a dog barking. They then saw a girl running away from them but ended up tripping herself. When the girl's hat fell off, they were surprised to see her horns and guessed that the girl was a demon. Rust was in a dilemma as a demon was humanity's sworn enemy, but he could not force himself to hurt a girl that looked like a human if she were to put her hat on. He then wondered if he should slay her. The stories Rust used to read about heroes never made him question that demons were truly humanity's greatest foes. The demons he has encountered were certainly a threat to humans, but now he is questioning if all demons are really enemies. He wonders if the demon in front of him is truly an enemy to humans. When Rust tries to draw his mystic arm, he is surprised that the little demon trembles in fear. Rust becomes more curious since he can't feel any hostility coming from the little demon. The tension breaks when the dog beside the little demon barks at Rust. Contemplating what a hero should do, Rust suddenly thinks of Ruby. When Rust is about to regain his confidence, he is stunned when the little demon asks for help. Rust then extends his hand to help the little demon and apologizes for frightening her. When Dia is about to ask about the dog, the little demon responds that she thought the dog was lost and decided to take it with her. Curious as to why the little demon is in the forest, Rust asks if she is lost. The little demon responds that she isn't and that she no longer has a home after Rust offers to escort her back. Rust is speechless when he sees the sad expression of the little demon. When she tries to drive away the dog, it gets even closer to her and ends up licking her face. When Rust suggests they take her back to the Adventurers Guild to hide her in a safer place, the little demon refuses the offer and prefers to be alone. From a distance, Rust sees an incoming weapon about to hit the little demon. Rust immediately grabs her and jumps away to safety. The little demon is saved, but the dog receives serious damage. When the little demon asks why Rust saved her when she is a demon, Rust responds that she is only a demon and not his enemy. Rust's words trigger a memory inside the little girl, which makes her decide to fully heal him. Both Dia and Rust are surprised that the little demon is able to use healing magic. Rust is more curious as to why Dia's foresight did not activate and wonders if it is because the attack was not directed towards him and Dia. When the little demon's pursuers finally show their faces, Rust is surprised that it is Helio. Helio's party then reminds him not to injure any adventurers. Rust greets Helio and tells him that he is now an adventurer. Helio cannot hold back his laughter and insults the guild for accepting Rust as an adventurer. Helio then asks the reason why he protected the demon. When Rust responds that the little demon was not hostile, this ends Helio and reminds Rust of what he used to read about demons in his storybooks. One of Helio's party members then mentions that they accepted a quest and were pursuing the little demon as a suspect, asking for the two to hand her over for questioning. Rust and Dia then remember that Garnet spoke of adventurers disappearing in the area. The little demon mentions that she does not know anything about the disappearances and asks Rust to believe her. Helio, on the other hand, prefers to end the little demon's life right away rather than question her. Helio's party members try to calm him down and to act rationally, but Helio is determined with his decision to end the little demon's life. After Rust asks Dia to protect the little demon, Helio gives the two a final warning before they would also get hurt. When Rust refuses Helio's offer, the two then exchange blows. However, Rust is easily overtaken with brute force by Helio alone. Helio's party members try to stop him but are ignored by him. Seeing enough injustice, Dia steps up and stops Helio's actions. Helio insults Rust again for always being protected by women. After exchanging a few words, Helio tries to hit Dia with his mystic arm but is immediately blocked by Rust. Rust is grateful to Dia for protecting him. He then asks her to protect the little girl as he is now alright. Enraged by Rust's behavior, Helio does not care if Rust's mystic arm looks different. He then uses his mystic weapons ability called Zeus Spear. Rust understands that Helio is much more experienced and better than him even though he has a better mystic arm. Since it is too dangerous to take Helio's thrust on, Rust's only option is to use the ability Chaos Bolt. Rust plans to break Helio's mystic arm first before he could land an attack on him. When Helio is about to throw his mystic arm, he is surprised when he sees Rust becoming super fast. After Helio releases his attack, Rust is able to predict it and is only grazed by the attack. Seeing the opportunity, Rust instantly breaks Helio's mystic arm in two. The others are surprised after witnessing Helio's B-ranked mystic arm being cut in two. Helio becomes more enraged as he grabs Rust's collar and starts lecturing him about demons. Rust does not waver to Helio's words and tells Helio that he wants to become a hero that could help the weak even if they're demons. Helio has had enough and is about to attack Rust with another attack when suddenly members of the guild show up and instruct the two to stop. The two of them are told that they will receive some punishment and that it is best to solve the issue by themselves. People began to gather when they heard the news that some renegades and a demon were brought in. To settle the issue, Garnet asked the two parties involved what really happened. Helio then mentioned that Rust protected a demon and also accused him of attacking him. When Garnet asked if Rust really protected a demon, Rust responded that he did. Dia wanted Rust to explain himself and not just give a simple answer. Helio was pleased that Rust confirmed his accusations and further insulted him. However, Helio's party member told Garnet that Rust only protected himself, and that Helio was one-sidedly attacking Rust. He then explained the reason he spoke the truth, as Helio always runs rampant but never attacked an adventurer before. He then regretted that he didn't stop Helio right away. Garnet was then told by another guild member of what had happened based on the little demon's perspective. Helio's party member's story lines up with the little demon's story. As such, Garnet told Helio and his party that they would receive punishment. They would be forbidden to take quests, and their mystic arms would be confiscated. Before being taken away, Helio told Rust that even though he was stuck in a difficult situation, only Rust knew who was getting something. Garnet then asked the two to follow her somewhere. Dia then asked Rust why he did not explain himself but only laughed at Dia, as he had heard that line before from Ruby. Rust then mentioned that it was not like he did not want to speak up for himself, but rather that he couldn't. He genuinely wanted to protect and save the little demon. Garnet asked if Rust was willing to be portrayed as a renegade for protecting humanity's enemy. Rust responded that he was. Garnet accepted Rust's answer and opened the door to the interrogation room. She then revealed that the little demon was indeed not involved in the adventurer disappearance case. The news excited Rust, but he was then told that they still had another problem. Since the little girl was still a demon, she would be attacked by humans, and worse, she was also being persecuted by demons. For the final decision, Garnet asked to have the little demon accompany them on a journey to the guild headquarters. Meanwhile, Helio and his party members were annoyed that they would not be able to handle their mystic arms for a week. Helio's party member knew that Helio wanted to make a name for himself and noticed that he became restless when he saw an article. The article became a huge topic of discussion around town. It was the one about the hero's right hand slaying one of the great 7 demons, who was also Helio's childhood friend. Later that night, Rust and the others decided to set out during the night so that they wouldn't stir up any trouble. Rust mentioned that the guild headquarters was located in the world's largest city, Creeland. The little demon was worried since there would be many adventurers in Creeland. Dia then told the little demon that once they see the guild master, she would be given permission to live in a human town. However, the little demon was still scared. Rust reassured her that the White Lawn branch was willing to talk with her. Rust then realized that they still had not fully known each other. Rust and Dia introduced themselves. The little demon also introduced herself as Citrine Treat, which the two found the name quite cute. When they asked where Citrine lived, she responded that she lived in Mount Obsidian. Curious about the place, Rust asked what it was like. When Citrine mentioned that the place always had stuff burning there and everything was charred bleach, Rust found it as a place that was not easy to live. When Rust asked if Citrine wanted to go back to such a place, he panicked when he saw Citrine crying as she was trying to talk about her home. To not stir up Citrine's emotions any further, Rust suggested that they camp for the night and get ready for dinner. When Dia and Rust asked Citrine if she would be alright consuming human foods, they only found it awkward as she always responded, "Okay." Citrine stared at Rust with suspicion when he asked for her mystic arms properties. Dia explained that Rust was only a mystic arm nerd and really gets excited looking at others' mystic arms. Seeing the two talking to each other, Citrine smiled as she felt at ease. When Citrine showed her mystic arm, Rust was relieved that he did not hurt Citrine. The level of Citrine's mystic arm confirmed that she did not hurt anyone. Rust mentioned that Citrine's mystic arm was unique and different from other demon mystic arms. Rust thought that she was so nice to heal the dog's injuries and would really suit their party as she was a gentle person. Citrine was happy hearing such words but was too embarrassed to speak about it. She ended up telling the others that she was going to sleep right there and then. When Rust suggested that they take turns watching throughout the night, Dia asked if Rust had heard of the special demon protection area which was called the Dream District, Eden. Dia then explained that the guild planned it to be a place to harbor harmless demons. There, humans and demons can live together without fighting. When Rust asked where the place was located, Dia told him that it did not exist since it was rejected when it was in the planning phase. Curious as to why Garnet would bring up something like that, Dia explained that it wasn't executed but it was planned out. In other words, there have been others in the same situation as them. People who want to help harmless demons. Even in spite of the rest of the world, Dia believes that Rust made the right choice. Rust was grateful for Dia's words and promised to help Citrine find a place she can call home. The three then happily journeyed together from mountains to lakes. Even though some time had passed since they started traveling, cases of adventurers disappearing were still happening. When Dia told Rust that it was his turn to take a bath, they were surprised to see a group of demons in front of them. The crocodile demon then offered to spare Rust and Dia if they handed Citrine over. The crocodile demon then tried to attack Rust. However, the demon was too slow for Rust. In just a matter of seconds, the demon's head was cut off. Rust then pointed his sword at the crocodile demon's neck and told him that he would not be handing Citrine over to them. Surprised, the demons planned to retreat momentarily, but were just killed off by an unknown individual. Rust was surprised to see a kid in white. Everything about the kid was white, from his skin and eyes to his mystic arms. Rust felt an intimidating pressure. The white kid was amazed and complimented Rust's power, feeling like he could never beat Rust even after gathering many Onyx Legion demons. Rust didn't believe a word the white kid said, as he was the one who wiped out the demons. The white kid responded that he simply hated pointless things, then mentioned he was claiming his target and leaving. When the white kid raised his weapon, Rust and Dia did not notice that the white kid had already taken Citrine in just a second. Using the ability Chaos Bolt, Rust tried to use speed as an advantage to land an attack on the white kid. However, it was still not enough, as the white kid was much faster than Rust. The white kid complimented Rust's abilities but assessed that it was still not enough, as he lacked battle experience. Annoyed, Rust used Chaos Bolt multiple times but could not land an attack. The white kid was so fast that Rust wondered if he had just vanished. When Citrine asked to be let go, the white kid responded that he only had use for her, and asked if she wanted him to bring the two back to Onyx. Citrine was stunned as she remembered traumatic memories. The white kid then used his mystic arm and cut through space. When Rust asked Citrine to get away and come back to them, Citrine only looked back and smiled at Rust as she walked into the open space. Before leaving, the white kid told Rust and Dia that Citrine was a demon, and that humans and demons can't live together. At a different location, a group of adventurers banded together looking for Citrine. They then encountered a dark-skinned demon who openly mocked their number and tried to save the town. When the adventurer asked if he was a demon, the dark-skinned demon responded that he was, but was somehow insulted to be labeled as a mere demon. All the adventurers attacked at once, but their attacks did not even hurt the dark-skinned demon. The dark-skinned demon was insulted at how weak the adventurers were. The adventurers then slowly recognized the demon they were facing. It was one of the 7 great demons. Meanwhile, Rust was looking at the weapons of the demons that were killed and was disappointed since none of the mystic arms seemed usable. He also realized that using mystic arm synthesis wouldn't guarantee improvement to his mystic arms. Dia asked Rust if he knew the reason why Citrine went along with the white kid, wondering if they were somehow friends. Rust doubted that the two were friends because of the look that Citrine gave them. Still curious as to why Citrine followed the white kid, Rust responded that it was much better to ask her for themselves. Rust is that the white kid's ability allows him to cut space with his key-like mystic arm to teleport. That was how he moved all the demons and made his attack reach far distances. Up until now, Rust could simply overpower all of his foes, but the white kid spells trouble. However, it was thanks to the white kid's ability that Rust knew where Citrine currently is. He smelled something burnt on the other side of the sliced space and instantly remembered Citrine's home place, Mount Obsidian. Citrine, who followed the white kid, was now back in her home place. When the white kid asked for Onyx, a snake demon welcomed them and responded that Onyx had also recently returned. When the demon named Onyx finally arrived, he laughingly greeted Citrine and asked the white kid about his men. After mentioning that the other demons sent by Onyx were useless, the white kid asked how he knew they were heading for the capital. The snake demon, whose name was Cinnabar, explained that they had an informant, a human renegade who holds disdain for other humans. The informant was also a member of the guild. Onyx then asked the white kid, whose name was revealed as Quartz, if he wanted to be part of his legion. Quartz did not want to join as he wouldn't be able to cooperate with other legions. When asked what his goal was, Quartz responded that all he ever wanted was the destruction of humanity. When Onyx suggested to Quartz that he should wipe out humanity himself and become the next demon lord, Quartz did not have any interest in becoming the king of demons. Before taking his leave, Onyx asked how many adventurers were with Citrine. Quartz responded that they would not be coming to save her since Citrine came back with her own volition. Hearing Quartz's words, Onyx was very happy and assumed that Citrine finally changed her mind about healing his right arm. Citrine then reminded Onyx that she doesn't have that kind of power. Onyx reassured Citrine that it was all fine as they've already made arrangements. Onyx then mentioned that while Citrine was away, he had been abducting us in hopes they could find someone to heal his arm. Citrine then remembered Garnet mentioning the adventurer's disappearance case and guessed that it was Onyx's fault. He then mentions that their mystic arms grow by killing humans, regardless of how the mystic arms of whoever kills them strengthens. When Cinnabar wheeled in a bunch of humans who were almost at death's door, Onyx then told Citrine that he brought the weak humans for her, so that she could level up and regenerate his right arm. With a menacing look, Onyx instructed Citrine to start killing the humans. Out of breath, Dia apologizes to Rust for slowing him down and suggests to Rust that he go ahead. Overlooking an ominous place, Rust tells Dia that they have already arrived at Mount Obsidian. A flashback occurs when Citrine was with her brother. She asked her brother why he has two names, Light and Treat. Citrine's brother explains that he is copying the humans who not only have a personal name but also a family name. Intrigued by her brother's story, Citrine decided to also use Light's other name and wished to be called Citrine Treat. Light loved humans as he would always talk about them so endearingly. Light was really moved by the bonds that humans made with each other. Both Citrine and Light were born in the same area, so he ended up taking care of Citrine like his little sister, mimicking human relationships. Citrine also loved Light as if he were her real big brother. Showing the ring of faint light to Citrine, Light tells Citrine that they both have ring-type mystic arms. After showing the ring to Citrine, Light remembered a human custom where when a man and woman love each other and want to take a vow to always be together, they put rings on each other's left-hand fourth finger. Fascinated by Light's story, Citrine wishes to try it with Light. However, Light tells Citrine that they should not take such a vow since they are siblings. Instead, Light suggests that Citrine put on the ring on her right-hand second finger. When Citrine asks for the reason, Light explains that it is the finger that points to others. Citrine's kindness has granted her healing magic, a healing that doesn't discriminate and can be directed at both demons and humans. Light tells Citrine that her healing magic is a great mystic arm since she is very kind. Citrine believed that their peaceful days would go on for eternity. However, everything changed when Citrine met an injured monster after it had been beaten down by an adventurer. With Citrine's kind personality, she did not turn away from the monster and instead healed him. However, she did not expect the monster to suddenly leave after being healed. Citrine became annoyed by the monster's rude behavior. After telling the story to her brother, Light commented that the monster must have panicked because of its injuries. Praising Citrine for a job well done, their conversation was suddenly interrupted. The leader of the Onyx Legion, Onyx, had arrived and thanked Citrine for taking care of his minion. Scared, Citrine hid behind her brother. Onyx went straight to the point and asked Citrine to join his legion and also regenerate his lost arm. Light reveals that Citrine currently does not have the power to regenerate Onyx's lost arm and suggests that he give up and leave. Upon learning that Citrine is still not powerful enough to heal him, he then thought of an idea to increase Citrine's power, which was to have her kill humans. When Light tells Onyx that Citrine does not want to harm humans, Onyx laughs as he asks what the reason would be. As Onyx's laugh slowly fades away, he realizes that he may not have conveyed himself properly. Onyx then clarifies to the two that he is not asking but instead giving an order. Alarmed, Light launched an attack on Onyx to give Citrine a chance to escape. Even though Citrine was scared, she still followed Light's orders and immediately ran away. Arriving at a human settlement, the humans were surprised upon hearing a call for help. Seeing a little girl asking for help, the two humans immediately tended to her. However, when they noticed Citrine's horns, the two humans immediately ran away as they feared for their lives. Citrine was puzzled as the humans did not even listen to her. When Citrine tried to approach another human asking for help, she was surprised and scared when the humans started banding together, wanting to tear her apart. Seeing Citrine cower in fear, Onyx was annoyed and disappointed in Citrine. Onyx then reveals that he took out all of the humans just for Citrine. As Onyx is the cause of her brother's death, Citrine tells Onyx that she would rather die than heal his right arm. Citrine was surprised when Onyx suddenly stabbed a human. Since Citrine has no intention of killing the humans, Onyx would have to dispose of them. With the common knowledge that humans and demons are enemies, Onyx tells Citrine that she should take her time. Hearing the call for help from the dying humans, Citrine was left with no other choice than to accept Onyx's terms. Still toying with human lives, Onyx tells the remaining human that his life was spared. However, Onyx accidentally killed him. Sensing another presence outside, Onyx orders Cinnabar to take everyone with her. Onyx thought that no one would be coming and wondered who their visitor was. Onyx was surprised when he witnessed Citrine heal the human back to life. Stepping outside of their hideout, Cinnabar asked what Rust's business was and warned him that they were approaching the Onyx Legion's base. Believing that they were in the right place, Dia thinks that Citrine is inside the cave and suggests that Rust go in first while she takes care of the monsters outside. Rust tells Dia that her plan is reckless. Before Rust could tell Dia about her mystic arm, Dia tells Rust that her shield is made for protecting her teammates. However, she wasn't able to protect Citrine. With her second opportunity, Dia promises that she will now protect Citrine. As Cinnabar orders the monsters to kill Dia and Rust, Dia jumps off the cliff and orders Rust to go. Creating a distraction by smashing her shield on the ground, Dia tells Rust that he can go now. Seeing Rust go past them, Cinnabar orders one of the monsters to follow Rust. However, Dia interrupted them, informing Cinnabar that she will not let anyone take a single step past her. While Onyx smiles at the situation, the humans are confused and ask Citrine why she is helping them. Believing that Citrine wishes to defeat Onyx with the help of the humans apologized and made it clear to Citrine that they were no match for Onyx. However, Citrine did not care what the humans said and just ordered them to run. Seeing the humans' confused look, Citrine shares that she only wishes for everyone to have the strength to escape. Following Citrine's orders, the humans apologize to Citrine before leaving. Citrine wonders if her actions were the right ones. However, she believes that her brother would praise her. Unfortunately for the humans, they were easily killed by Onyx with just one slash of his sword. Playing along with Citrine, Onyx evidently had enough and made Citrine understand the reality. Hearing the last words spoken by her brother before Onyx took his life away, Onyx then grabs a rock and advises Citrine not to betray her brother's faith in her. Twisting Light's words, Onyx tells Citrine that she can help the humans by releasing them from their pain by taking their lives. As Citrine was about to smash the rock on the dying man's face, she suddenly remembered her brother's words. Citrine then heard a voice in front of her apologizing to her for being late, putting the rock down. Citrine could not believe that she was seeing Rust in front of her. Rust reassures Citrine that everyone is going to be okay. Because of her healing magic, Citrine lost her big brother, her home, and a place to belong. For Citrine, both demons and humans are enemies. Citrine never would have considered that she would get lost since she never had a place to begin with. However, she somehow still ended up getting lost. Not wanting Rust to get involved in her matters, Citrine asked Rust why he still followed her. Remembering how her brother protected her and how the humans tried to kill her, Citrine cried as she did not expect that Rust would save her even if she is a demon. Even though Citrine is also a demon, for Rust, she is also a dear friend. Seeing a human entering his base, Onyx wonders what Cinnabar is even doing. Onyx advised Rust not to stick his nose in as Citrine is about to level up by killing all the humans. Rust became enraged just by the look of Onyx's face. Onyx did not mind Rust as someone on his level and just planned to kill Rust for his entertainment instead. Onyx was caught off guard as he received a powerful punch from Rust. Noticing that Citrine is still healing the injured people, Rust advises her not to force herself since she is already so weakened. Since she is the only one who can save the people inside, Citrine has no plans of stopping. Asking Rust if her actions are good, Rust pats Citrine's head and praises her for her admirable work. Standing up, Onyx wishes to clarify something with Rust and asks if Rust is challenging him. However, Rust made it clear to Onyx that he has no plans of challenging him, as he just wants to plainly defeat him. Meanwhile, outside the Onyx Legion base, Dia alone was holding off Cinnabar and her minions. The other monsters were starting to get frustrated with Dia's mystic arm since they showed no signs of cracking after launching multiple attacks. Cinnabar acknowledges Dia's ability to protect. Cinnabar was now curious as to how Dia overcame fighting 3 monsters simultaneously. After successfully blocking multiple attacks, Dia sensed danger behind her and immediately turned around, hitting the monster with her mystic arm. After the monster got thrown off by Dia's mystic shield, the other monsters couldn't believe how dangerous Dia was with her mystic shield. Although Dia was able to fend off the 3 monsters, it also allowed Cinnabar to view her weakness. Though there are a few unfathomable things, Cinnabar was very curious as to why Dia was so frantic. Intrigued by the shield mystic arms, Cinnabar ordered the 3 monsters to stop fooling around and attack together at once. The monsters shared their concern about Dia's counterattacks. However, Cinnabar did not want to hear the monsters' pathetic excuses, and ordered them to show some guts and take Dia head-on. Sensing something different from the 3 monsters, Dia believed that they were planning something. Calling out their powerful attacks, the 3 monsters then charged straight at Dia. As Dia was about to prepare herself for the attack, she immediately noticed Cinnabar's presence behind her. However, Dia was unable to successfully block all of Cinnabar's attacks and ended up getting injured. Cinnabar reveals that the weapon she used is called the Orochi's Venom, a poison that Cinnabar can freely control at will. The poison works so fast that the person who touches it would die, even if it is just a single drop. The 3 monsters asked Cinnabar why they were included in the attack. However, Cinnabar just thanked the 3, deeming them useful for allowing Dia to receive an injury. Seeing Dia's mystic arm still undamaged, Cinnabar finds the mystic arm quite troublesome. Out of nowhere, Cinnabar was hit right in the face by Dia's mystic arm. After asking Cinnabar if she understands the value of life, Cinnabar grinned as she confirmed that Dia's mystic arm has no mystic power. At first, Cinnabar thought that Dia was taking the defensive to stall. However, Cinnabar was able to confirm a theory, which is that Dia could only defend and nothing more. Cinnabar was astonished to learn that Dia can negate the Orochi poison, but Cinnabar believes that it is because of the mystic arm's ability. Seeing that Dia can't defend against the melting effect of the poison, Cinnabar decided to just burn Dia to death. Cinnabar answers Dia's question, telling her that life has no use and no meaning. Now quite sure of the difference in being dead, Cinnabar confidently stated that the monsters are satisfied that their lives were of no use. Knowing that Dia's mystic arm no longer has any mystic power, Cinnabar was sure that Dia wouldn't be able to block the attack. Changing her plan to offense, Dia charged at Cinnabar, pushing her to a rock wall. With Dia's action, she received another injury. However, she was also able to injure Cinnabar's face, which enraged her. Filled with anger, Cinnabar used the skill called Venomelt and shared her plans to kill Rust after she kills Dia. Taking on the Venomelt, Dia could no longer block the attack and ended up getting severely injured and was now lying on the ground. Dia felt that her body was burning from the inside and was in so much pain. Dia could no longer hold back her tears, as she felt that she has come so far, yet Rust is still being protected by Rust. In a flashback when Dia was still a young girl, she was asked what kind of mystic arm she wanted in the future. Dia responded that she wanted a big mystic arm. Since Dia does not like fighting, she plans to protect everyone, which is why she wanted a big mystic arm. Hearing Dia's answer, her mother was sure that Dia's friends would be happy since she would protect them. Surprised that Dia is still able to stand up after taking the Venomelt, Cinnabar asks Dia what more she can do. Standing up on her own, Dia tells Cinnabar the obvious answer, which is protecting her teammates. Cinnabar no longer deemed Dia a dangerous opponent and launched another Venomelt attack. However, to Cinnabar's surprise, her attack was completely blocked by Dia's mirror shield. Dia reassures Cinnabar that she will not be able to lay a hand on her teammate. With Cinnabar's attack being reflected back to her, Cinnabar could not believe that she is being killed by the very weapon she uses. Dia became an adventurer to find her parents. However, with the current situation, Dia is not useless, as she is the hero's shield. Dia managed to defeat Cinnabar. However, she did not come out unscathed. Barely walking, Dia hopes that Rust and Citrine are fine and promises to protect both of them. Losing all of her strength, Dia ended up passing out. Inside the Onyx Legion's base, Rust was facing the demon's leader, Onyx. After exchanging blows, Onyx was impressed with Rust's mystic arm and praised it. Onyx forgot to introduce himself after getting caught up in the fight, so he introduced himself as one of the Great Seven Demons. However, he became mad after Rust ignored his introduction. Grabbing Rust's sword, Onyx told Rust that he too should introduce himself. Kicking Onyx and creating some space, Rust then told Onyx his name. Hearing about the 7 great demons, Rust remembered that it is the nickname of the Demon Lord's top generals in the past. The 7 great demons were recorded in legend as the strongest demons. As the Great War happened 300 years ago, Rust wondered if Onyx survived for that long. Onyx was surprised that Rust was able to make their fight entertaining, so he then asked Rust if he was stronger than the hero that took his right arm. Seeing Rust's confused look, Onyx shared how he once fought the hero, the strongest adventurer, during the Great War. During his fight with the hero, Onyx had his right arm stolen. After the Great War, Onyx challenged the hero to a rematch. However, to Onyx's surprise, the hero had died of old age. Although Onyx had heard rumors that a new hero had emerged, he had no interest in them. After being told that he might be as strong or stronger than the hero, Rust was not sure if he could believe Onyx since he had only fought battles that he had to win. Fighting with Onyx, Rust was also fighting a battle that he could not lose. Onyx praised Rust after seeing him use an enchant ability. Rust first landed a slice with Hellflame and followed it up with a Chaos Bolt at the back of Onyx. After witnessing Onyx being thrown into a wall, the humans became lively as they were impressed with Rust's power. After seeing Rust's power, Citrine believed that they might have a chance of actually defeating Onyx. Recovering from Rust's attack, Onyx laughed as he enjoyed Rust's attack. Onyx wanted to give Rust a round of applause. However, he still lacked an arm to do that. Thinking that his warm-up was already enough, Onyx told Rust that he now planned to get serious. Confused, Rust's eyes were immediately filled with fear upon realizing that Onyx did not have a single scratch on him. Using the enchant Death Curse Dead End, Onyx launched an attack on Rust, which blew him out of the base. Planning to have more fun with Rust, Onyx told Citrine that she would have to heal his arm after he came back. Hoping that Citrine would have leveled up by then, he then told Citrine that if she still resisted, he would kill everyone, including Citrine. After being blown away, Rust could barely help himself stand up. Rust couldn't believe what had happened, as he did not expect to face the true might of one of the Great Seven Demons. Realizing that Onyx's hide was on a whole different level, Rust believed that he might have to perform a dual enchantment. However, Rust was worried about his magic going berserk, and wondered if he was able to handle it in his current state. Emerging from the base, Onyx called out to Rust to continue their fight. Meanwhile, Citrine told the humans to take the chance and escape while she went out to help Rust. Citrine promised to protect everyone, as she no longer planned to run away. Composing himself, Rust then tried to perform a dual enchantment but ended up dropping his mystic arm. Overwhelmed with pain in his head, Rust wondered if what he was feeling was a curse. Onyx revealed that the effect of his dead end was an instant death rank curse, and believed that Rust's mystic arm was lessening its effects. Seeing that Rust was not able to negate the effect clearly, Onyx hoped that Rust would not die over a little curse. Onyx attacked Rust in his vulnerable state. However, Rust was able to sense the attack and dodged in time. Grabbing his mystic arm, Rust blocked Onyx's second attack. Seeing his hand tremble, Rust couldn't believe that he could barely block the attack. Enjoying their fight, Onyx wished for Rust to take their fight more seriously. When Citrine showed herself, Onyx became enraged and redirected the attack towards her. Using all of his remaining strength, Rust saved Citrine from the attack. However, he was no longer able to move after sustaining serious injuries. Seeing Rust's wound, Citrine tried healing him. To Citrine's surprise, her healing magic was not working. After going out of his way to set up prey for Citrine, Onyx asked if Citrine couldn't even help her fellow brethren. Hearing no response from Citrine, Onyx then reminded her how she ran away, leaving her brother to die. Citrine stared at Onyx, telling him to drop dead. When Onyx tried to end Citrine's life, he was abruptly stopped when something hit his head. Seeing a shield on the ground, Onyx noticed Dia and asked who she was. Dia became enraged after seeing both Rust and Citrine get hurt. Seeing Dia, Onyx guessed that Cinnabar failed in her job. Seeing Dia's injured state, Citrine became worried and tried to heal her. With Rust no longer able to move, Onyx became disappointed and planned to chop up Rust's teammates while he witnessed it. Rust crawled with everything he had, hoping that he could still save Citrine and Dia. Grabbing his mystic arm, Rust pleaded with his mystic arm to lend him more strength, the power to protect his friends. As Onyx was about to kill both Dia and Citrine, he was interrupted by a burst of power coming from behind. Onyx was shocked after seeing Rust perform a dual enchantment. Seeing Rust's dual enchant, Onyx couldn't believe that Rust had been hiding his strength. As Rust charged forward, Onyx then cast Dead End to counter Rust's attack. When the two powers clashed, it caused a huge explosion. Citrine recognized Rust's attack and remembered how it imploded on Rust when he used it last time. Dia wondered if he could now use the dual enchant properly. Using dual enchant, Rust was able to keep up with Onyx's movement and power. Loving a good fight, Onyx asked Rust if he too became an adventurer for the same reason. After receiving a kick from Onyx, Rust told Onyx that he became an adventurer to become a hero and to stop all the fighting. Rust's answer surprised Onyx, which gave him an opportunity to land an attack, piercing through Onyx's vile hide. On his knees, Onyx told Rust to finish him off already. Onyx laughed at Rust, enticing him to finish off one of the Great Seven Demons and become the hero he wished to be. Thinking that Rust was about to defeat Onyx, both Dia and Citrine noticed that Rust was hurt and unable to move properly. Realizing that Dead End was starting to weaken Rust, Onyx believed that his death curse was beginning to attack Rust from the inside. Mocking Rust for missing his opportunity, Onyx then drew his sword as he was about to take Rust's life. However, Onyx did not expect Rust to counter using Hellflame. With Rust's powerful counterattack, he once again blew Onyx far away. Rust believed that if the fight continued much longer, the result would have been different, as the state of his body was at its limit. Rust's eyes widened upon seeing Onyx's silhouette. Laughing maniacally, Onyx asked Rust if he actually believed he had defeated a demon as powerful as him. Rust couldn't believe that Onyx was still alive after receiving a direct blow from Hellflame. Raising his mystic arm, Rust was shocked to see that his mystic arm had taken back its rusty form. As despair painted their faces, Citrine tried to approach Rust and planned to buy some time for the two to escape. However, Citrine was shocked when Rust asked if she had a death wish. Rust then told Citrine that all of them would die if she stayed too long and advised her to leave since they didn't have much time. Faced with the same options again, Citrine chose to run away. Rust wanted to apologize to Citrine and hoped that she survived. Rust tried to persuade Dia to go with Citrine. However, Dia had already decided that she would protect Rust until the very end. Rust was left speechless as Onyx attacked Dia from behind, knocking her far away. Enraged, Rust used what was left of his strength to fight Onyx. While running away, Citrine was still thinking of a way to save both Rust and Dia. Citrine unexpectedly met one of the adventurers she had helped escape. Curious as to why the humans still hadn't run away, the adventurer showed Citrine a potion and told her that he needed to give it to her. The adventurer told Citrine that the potion would only allow a person to recover enough to use magic one more time. Meanwhile, Rust was now being mercilessly toyed with by Onyx. Stabbing Rust in the shoulder, Onyx laughed as he told Rust that now both of them had one arm. Now with only one arm, Onyx asked Rust what his next plan was. Rust told Onyx that as long as he could move his arm, he would defeat him. Seeing that there was some distance between her and Rust, Citrine wondered what she should do. Seeing Dia lying on the ground, Citrine immediately ran towards her. Hearing Dia's promise, Citrine finally knew what she needed to do. As both Onyx and Rust's swords clashed, Onyx gained the upper hand when he knocked Rust's mystic arm away. When Onyx was about to deal the final blow, Rust was fortunately saved by Dia. Seeing that Dia blocked his attack, Onyx knew that it was Citrine's doing. With the momentary distraction, Rust grabbed the opportunity and landed a deadly blow on Onyx. While receiving an attack from Rust, Onyx remembered the time he toyed with Citrine's brother. With Light's words begging for the humans to save his sister, Onyx wondered if he was witnessing the bond between a human and a demon. Meeting his end, Onyx still laughed as he finally let go of his weapon. Wondering if it was finally over, the two then ran towards Rust. Both Citrine and Dia were shocked when Rust suddenly hugged the two of them. The three cried as they were all glad that everyone was okay. The battle between Rust and the Onyx Legion finally met its end, as Rust stood victorious. After her story was told, Citrine was granted permanent citizenship. When Rust finally woke up, he asked Dia where they were. When Dia told him they were in hospital, Rust became confused as he didn't remember arriving in Creeland. Dia revealed that after fighting Onyx, the adventurers Rust saved carried him to Creeland's hospital. When Dia mentioned that Rust had been asleep for 2 days, Rust was surprised and immediately asked about Citrine. However, he calmed down upon seeing Citrine sleeping at the end of his bed. When Citrine finally woke up, she was shocked to see Rust awake. As they greeted each other with a good morning, Citrine asked Rust if he was feeling okay. A nurse then entered the room and was surprised to see Rust finally awake. The nurse shared that Rust had a deep wound, but it had completely healed. Rust was very grateful to the nurse as he had fully recovered in just 2 days. The nurse told Rust he also had to thank Citrine as she played a significant role in healing him. Praising Citrine's astounding healing ability, Rust was caught off guard when the nurse mentioned that Citrine was given permanent citizenship. Dia then revealed to Rust that it was thanks to the adventurers for convincing the guild. Rust was speechless as he himself was just as surprised that everything happened so fast. He congratulated Citrine for becoming a permanent citizen. Although happy with the news, Citrine asked Rust if it was really okay, as she could no longer accompany Rust and heal his wounds. Rust assured Citrine that it was fine and reminded her that their objective was to find a safe place for her to live. If Citrine were to always tag along with Rust, she would always be in danger. Citrine agreed and was glad they were safe. Before leaving, the nurse told Rust that the guildmaster requested his presence and suggested that Rust rest for the day and see the guildmaster tomorrow. Rust became nervous upon hearing that the guildmaster wanted to see him. Dia advised Rust to get some rest first. Changing the topic, Rust asked the two how they were and what happened to their injuries. Citrine told Rust they were fine, but before she could mention Dia's back, Dia immediately interrupted her. However, Rust became curious and asked Dia what happened to her back. Dia shared that, although her wound had healed, it was so deep that it left a bit of a scar. When Rust asked Dia to show the wound, Dia became embarrassed and called Rust a pervert. In the end, Dia showed Rust the scar, which shocked him. Frantically apologizing, Rust promised Dia that he would become strong enough to protect her. Dia told Rust that she should be the one protecting him, as she felt she had been useless up until now. Confused, Rust told Dia that she had been protecting him since the day they met, and if it weren't for her, his adventure would have ended long ago. Promising to protect Rust, Dia shared how the scar on her back would be proof of her resolve. Sharing how she is the hero's shield, Rust became embarrassed and asked Dia what she meant about the hero. Seeing the two so lively, Citrine smiled, believing that things were now back to normal. Around the same time in Whiteland, Helio was finally back in action and called for his colleagues to move immediately. When one of Helio's colleagues tried talking to him, they were puzzled when Helio suddenly apologized. When Helio was teased, he became angry again and told his comrades that they were going to take a request as soon as possible. Since the trio needed to gain more merits, they suggested heading elsewhere as there wasn't much compensation in the town. Helio then overheard two people discussing the guild keeping the destruction of the altar a secret. When the two mentioned that the hero's party was involved, Helio immediately approached them and asked for the altar's location. Helio became angrier when the two didn't give out the location immediately. Meanwhile, near Creeland, a monster was being dealt with by Spinel and Lapis. Ending the monster's life, Amethyst used the fully released Lilac. The group still couldn't believe they were headed straight for Creeland, the Adventurer Central. When Spinel and Lapis asked Amethyst if the reason they were headed to Creeland was truly because of a better quest, Amethyst made it clear that Dia being in Creeland was unrelated. Spinel tried to side with Amethyst, saying that Dia would be fine with Rust. However, the two didn't expect Lapis to ask if they weren't thankful to Rust for saving all their lives. Although Amethyst was thankful, she still did not accept Rust. Amethyst and her group were then interrupted by the guild staff, informing them that the guildmaster wanted to see them. When Rust finally recovered, he left the hospital with Dia and headed to the guild headquarters. The nurse then asked the two to wait while Citrine made herself more presentable. Rust's conversation with the nurse was interrupted by the adventurer he helped save. When the adventurer expressed his gratitude, he was surprised when Rust asked who he was. After informing Rust of his identity, Rust thanked the adventurer for convincing the guildmaster to grant Citrine permanent citizenship. When Citrine was finally ready, Rust thought she looked adorable in her uniform. The two then lectured Citrine before leaving and promised her they would visit sometime. Seeing the two leave, the adventurer was sure that people would remember Rust for a long time as a hero. Remembering the time she shared with Rust and Dia, Citrine called out their names and thanked them for everything. Meanwhile, somewhere in an abandoned ruin, demons spoke about Onyx's death. One demon thought that Onyx was the strongest of the 7 great demons. Another demon corrected that Onyx was the strongest when he still had both arms. When the demon asked the name of Onyx's killer, the person shared that he didn't know the name but knew the boy wielded a rusty sword. The demon laughed and reassured that she wouldn't forget that Onyx's killer wielded a rusty sword. That is the end of chapter 16. Please check the pinned comment about the next part.